Management style, when there are philosophical differences, when you talk about delegation, managing is not a matter of philosophy. Stay mindful of that. It's a matter of science. It's not philosophy. If you tell me my philosophy is I'm an empowerer, I really like to, laissez-faire, let people go and learn and grow and experiment, well, you'd be in a world of trouble if you were an empowerer and you worked at McDonald's. We talked about this in our class. If your management style is to micromanage, you would be in a world of trouble if you were the floor shift nursing supervisor at Northern Virginia Hospital. Those people need the latitude and the freedom to make independent choices. So it's not about philosophical differences. What happens is, if David is my supervisor and he has access to my people and he uses a different philosophy than I use as we supervise our team, my employees will go around me to David if they think they have an improved chance of getting what they want, or my employees will choose me if they think my philosophy is going to allow them to get what they want. Everybody understand what I'm talking about, right? Which is why we have to have a common understanding that managing people is a science. It's not an art. It's not a philosophy. Our sales manager who gets promoted and has not been trained in sales management, and they are at the very forefront of their mind, they don't realize, I don't sell cars anymore. That's not my job. My job is to coach, train, lead, and develop people who do sell cars. And when, I got a salesperson who sold 18 cars, but Jesus, Claude, or Mike, or, I got managers here, you guys closed half those deals, there's a skill gap we need to close. Because at the same time that, Mike, you're out there closing customers on the sales floor, what's happening to the folders at your desk? Deals we need to get funded. So when you do things other people can do and should do, it keeps you from the things that only you can do. All right? So there's a time and a place for coaching. Somebody comes to the door of your office and says, do you know where the folder is? Don't say, what else do you think you could have had? Don't do that. They say, you know where the folder is? Tell them where the folder is. Don't go into your coaching mode. All right? There's time and place. The bottleneck a lot of times happens, the inefficiencies happen, the process breaks down because we don't respect the golden rule of delegation. And we're not coaching and developing and training people to do their job at a high level. So the next time you have a manager in your store that says, just get them in here, I'll close them, take them aside and think, teach that man to fish. Don't make him don't fish for him. Don't ask, what's the real challenge here for you? You know where the folder is? What's the real challenge here for you? Don't do that.
Welcome to Car Business University. My name is Dennis, and I am pleased and excited that you've chosen to stop by and take a few moments attending this class, the first level of sales performance management. Now, I have found that there's abundant resources in the automotive industry for training sales consultants. There are fewer resources for training managers, and even fewer still that are effective. So I've created this 45-minute manager training program as a way for us to get to know each other, for me to introduce Car Business University to you. Now, if you can't find 45 minutes of uninterrupted time to attend to this video, close it up. This is a serious class. The content, I'm absolutely certain, the most seasoned manager that's watching this video, that's attending this program, is going to find information that has value for them. It's a serious class, and I would ask only, even though it's free, a lot of times you get a free class, people say, what could it be worth? Well, I'm telling you that it is the blueprint for you to start increasing your sales starting today, starting this month. If you follow the blueprint, but you have to follow it, and I want you to give it some serious attention. If you don't have a tablet, pause the video and go get a tablet and a pen. I am going to, throughout the video, as I do in all my sales training, all the classes that I teach, I'm likely to bark out, as an old college professor, I'm likely to bark out, write this down in a very bossy tone. I'm going to ask you to excuse the tone, forgive it, and understand it relates to my passion to be helpful. But then write it down. We are going to dump a truckload of concepts on you, a truckload of information, and I want you to take it with you when you leave the video. At the end, you'll see that all of these concepts kind of weave together in this cohesive sales and sales leadership strategy. Caution, don't be a knucklehead. Don't imagine going into, and I say that affectionately, the knucklehead remark, don't go into this program imagining that you know the information. And you might know some of it. You're likely not to know all of it. And so at the end of 45 minutes, imagine I could nearly guarantee that the most seasoned sales manager, general manager, would be able to watch this video and leave us some valuable ideas that they can use leading their team starting tomorrow. Our goal is we want to learn the single most effective management tool for driving an elite sales performance. We want to deploy a goal setting and performance management system that fosters manager confidence and predictable sales results. We want to utilize sales tools that are unmatched in achieving customer engagement. If I wanted to double your sales next month, if I wanted to double your dealership sales next month, I won't need sales training to do that. I need more customers. And to have more customers, you need a sound internet-based or an internet age digital marketplace sales strategy that's going to engage more customers in a meaningful way so that they choose you back, right? So we want to talk a little bit about using manager strategy and tools that are going to achieve increased customer engagement. And one of the goals that I think is most important is we want to create a sales-driven culture that says we expect the best sales performance day after day, week after week, month after month, year over year. A manager is entitled to expect the best sales performance from their team, and that we care enough about our sales team to hold them accountable. So we're going to talk a little bit more about accountability a little bit later, but I just want to plant this seed. Accountability is about caring enough about your team, about your salespeople, personally and professionally, that we would hold them accountable to their best performance. And this would be a strategy and a tactic that you're going to learn over the next 40 minutes or so that's going to help do that. Hold people accountable to their best performance so that we achieve predictable results and gain a sense of confidence across a sales team. A little bit about me. You may have forgotten a little bit about my background. My first job out of college was the president of a cable television company. It was in that experience that I sold the company, did pretty well as a young man. And I realized, however, that I enjoyed building people more than things, so that I went on to a 20-year career as a college teacher and administrator. I worked at Montgomery College, Community College of Baltimore County, and Baltimore City Community College. And I worked at the United States Naval Academy 12 years as an adjunct professor. My students were admirals who were leaving the military for executive level jobs. I taught a executive level corporate transition course to help them facilitate and be successful in a private sector environment. My second business, Career Services Inc., I kind of interrupted my 20 years in the colleges back in the 90s and built a professional development center right in the mall where I live in Frederick, Maryland. It was for professional executive level workers, and it was a place where they could comfortably come and learn. I sold that business, did pretty well, and went back to work in a college setting. So right around the year 2000, I was the assistant director of corporate training at Baltimore City Community College, and we started to get calls from car dealerships. They were saying, what is this thing called the internet? So I responded by leaving my college career in 2005 and created Car Business University. For almost 20 years, I've traveled the country, taking the sum total of what I was teaching at the college level, incorporating it into a dealership training company, training programs, and have had enormous success, unmatched success, frankly, teaching and coaching sales and sales leadership. I want to start with some background and assumptions before we get into the actual strategy and tactic of that is the subject of this manager training. I want to start with some background and assumption. One, we don't sell cars anymore. It's really, really important that we embrace the idea as a manager, we don't sell cars anymore. Our job is to shape the behavior of the people who do. Now, if you've been in the business a minute, you've probably heard a sales manager stand up at the tower somewhere in the showroom and say, just get them in here and I'll close them. Just get them, go make phone calls. Just get them in here and I'll close them. Now, it takes me an hour in the leadership class to describe why that's such a bad and hurtful position to take. For a manager to stand up at the tower and say, just get them in here, I'll close them. Now, we understand, again, there's a psychology to leadership. There's a psychology to selling. We talk about the psychology of what might be behind a manager standing up and saying, just get them in here and I'll close them. But I'm telling you from a business perspective, you would never find in any college, university level class on business leadership that a manager would stand up and say something like that. Again, it takes me an hour to explain why it's wrong. I will address it a little bit here. There's something that I call the business laws of physics, the business laws of physics. Now, We all understand the laws of physics, right? Gravity, Newton's laws of motion. These are irrefutable laws of the universe, right? And the more engineers study the laws of physics, the more creative they can be, the more spectacular they can be in the buildings and the structures that they design and build. Well, I am going to refer to what I call the business laws of physics. These are irrefutable laws of business that, frankly, I believe the car business has ignored for 75 years. These are laws of physics, business laws of physics, basic fundamentals of business. And I speak about them extensively in my sales class. Of course, in our leadership class, we have to make reference to some of the fundamentals of business leadership that make good organizations exceptional organizations. Let's talk about one of those business law of physics now. There is a golden rule of delegation that says when you do something that someone else can do, it keeps you from the things that only you can do. Again, this is from the delegation class in our leadership training. When you do something someone else can do, it keeps you from the things that only you can do. Here's the deal. I want $15 an hour people doing $15 an hour work. I want $40 an hour people doing $40 an hour work. We have a hierarchy in a company for a reason. And people get promoted based on their promise, based on their potential, frankly, based on their ability to handle and manage higher level responsibility. And just as an example, when a sales manager stands up and says, just get them in here and I'll close them, the truth is he's saying that I really enjoy selling cars, so you get them in and I'll be able to do something that I enjoy. But when he stands up and volunteers to close Bob's customers for him, he's taken a personnel issue and he's made it an organizational problem, right? Bob should be able to close his own customers. Now, once in a while, we're going to TO our customer when we have to. But if Bob sold 12 cars last month and Dennis, the manager, had to TO and close 5 of those 12, there is a skill or knowledge gap over there. And the manager has to resolve that gap. They have to close that skill or knowledge gap. I hope that makes sense to you. So, by the way, we've all seen the new salespeople who always volunteer to go out and want to TO. I'll TO the car. They go out and drive around. They're out of the dealership for an hour. And when I visit the store, I'll come back after training. I'll visit the store and I'll say, well, where were you? He said, I was DXing the car. I go, well, why do you want to do $15 an hour work? If you're one of my salespeople and you're on my sales team, you should be making $40. You should be making $75,000, $80,000 a year and at a minimum selling cars. And when you choose to go out and do a job like DX a car, you're losing $25 an hour. Every hour that you are not in the presence of a customer as a professional, well-trained, well-equipped salesperson, you're going to lose $25 an hour by volunteering to do someone else's job. I'll say it again. When you do something someone else can do, it keeps you from the things that only you can do. Number 2, sales consultant to sales manager is a career change. If you are watching this video and you are a sales manager, you know how to sell cars. You probably do that job at a really high level. I'm not going to promote you to a sales manager position if you don't have a good grasp of that lower level position. The expectation is, of course, that you would build, coach, and train a sales team who would be as good as you are. So it is a career change. Sadly, in the industry, what happens is we see a lot of times people get promoted from sales consultant to sales manager, and there are skill and knowledge gaps. Because it's a career change, it requires different competencies, different skills, different abilities that, frankly, many, many managers are not equipped with. Hopefully, when you leave this 45-minute video, you'll have a few additional sales manager tools that you can put into your toolbox. When a sales team screws up, it's their fault, but it is the manager's responsibility. When a salesperson or a sales team screws up, it is indeed their fault, but it is the manager's responsibility. Now, I've been in the dealerships, and again, if you've been in this business for a minute, you've probably heard it as well. You've heard the sales manager who says, I'm going to blow this whole team up and start over. I'm going to get rid of all of these hobos, and I'm going to get some new salespeople in here. And if I'm there to do coaching or training, I'll say, well, why would you do that? So these guys are lazy, or you've got any number of reasons. I'll say, but you hired them. They're yours. They're yours for better or for worse, richer or poor, and all the rest of that nonsense. They are yours. When they screw up, it's their fault. But it's your responsibility to coach and train them so they can do the job at a high level. Number 4, a sales-driven culture requires sophisticated leadership skills. A sales-driven culture requires sophisticated leadership skills. A sales-driven culture is a real thing, right? It's not just words. It's a real thing. It is a business philosophy. In a sales-driven culture, everybody who took a paycheck, everybody who accepted a check, maybe it was the tow truck company, the contracted detailing company, everybody who took a check out of that dealership is on the sales team. So as a consultant and trainer, when I travel around the country, and if I'm going into a dealership for the first time, I make it my practice to park in the furthest corner of the campus of the dealership, and I walk the dealership through the service lanes, around the front, and through into the dealership till I get to the GM's office. And I do that to see how many times people with a name on the shirt that belongs to that particular dealership, they walk by me and they don't acknowledge me as though I'm unimportant. And that tells me if there's 6 or 8 people who walk past me and don't acknowledge me, there is no sales-driven culture there. So it's a real thing. That's a whole seminar I do on building a sales-driven culture. Today's not the day for that. But I want you to understand that if that made sense to you, what I just described about a sales-driven culture, it requires sophisticated leadership skills, and it requires processes and leadership that's going to drive it to be. Number 5, sales leads are a precious company asset. Sales leads are a precious company asset. I guarantee you there's someone in your dealer group who knows how much it costs to make the phone ring. I guarantee there's someone in your dealership who knows how much it costs to have a name and contact information appear in your CRM every morning when you unlock it. Sales leads are a precious corporate asset. I am stunned and amazed at how many dealerships, and I'm talking about almost all of them, will leave salespeople to their own discretion on how to manage a sales lead. They'll dismiss a lead as being bad. They're not a serious buyer. They don't follow the workflow or the scientifically driven process of converting a lead to a prospect and a prospect to a showroom visit and then a sold car. And salespeople are left essentially to work unsupervised and use their own discretion in managing sales leads. Sales leads are a precious corporate asset. And every time I mishandle one, the cost of sale goes up. I'll say it again. Every time me, Dennis, as a salesperson, mishandles a sale lead, I don't give it my best effort. I don't follow the workflow, the scientifically based sales process that increases the chance I'm going to convert that internet lead to a showroom visit. Every time I deviate from that process and I lose that opportunity to a competitor, the cost of sale on the next car that I do sell goes up. Sales leads are a precious company asset. It is reasonable to expect a person's best performance. It is not unreasonable to hold people accountable. It is reasonable in a sales-driven culture for a sales manager to turn their attention to the job that they have to do today at the tower, desking deals, customer service, floor planning, buying cars, lot, facilities, all of the things that the leadership staff has to attend to. It is reasonable as you go about the business of doing your work to assume that everyone else is going to continue to give the dealership and this, the sales team their best effort. All right. That's not being unreasonable. And you should have, again, confidence. We'll use that word again. There should be manager confidence if you don't show up for work today that the sales team is going to continue to pursue their best and highest sales performance. Number 7, the first step in managing a team is to define what success looks like. I'll say it again. Listen closely. The first step in managing an elite sales team is to define what success looks like. Okay? And we're going to talk about that. I'm astounded, again, as I go in and out of hundreds of dealerships, how there's not a common understanding of what constitutes success for today. I mean, we should drill down, and everybody in the building should know it's, Monday, October 39th, whatever the date. Who cares what day it is? Everybody in the building should understand what our intention is today. What constitutes success for the work we intend to do today, for the month, and for the year. And if my sales team, if my sales consultant does not know what constitutes success for them today, for the month, I can't hold. In fact, it would be unfair to hold them accountable to a sales performance that I haven't collaborated with them up front and had them agree that that defines success for the work that they're going to do. The first step in managing an elite sales team is to define what success looks like. And finally, performance management should be a top priority of a leadership team. We don't sell cars anymore. We manage the performance of the people who do. Performance management, shaping the performance, defining what an elite sales performance looks like and helping people achieve it. Performance management should be a top priority of a leadership team in a dealership. Now, when I go into a dealership, often people will say, Dennis, come on over. We want to see what you can do for us. I ask 3 questions. We call these key performance indicators. These are 3 KPIs that tell me the story of what's going on in a dealership. 1, the conversion rate of internet leads to showroom visits. The conversion rate of internet leads to showroom visits, right? We opened the store this morning. We looked in the CRM over the time I left yesterday, the time I unlocked the door this morning, I had 18 new leads in my CRM. The overall conversion rate of those leads to showroom visits is one of the metrics, one of the KPIs I'll ask about. The second is the conversion of showroom visits to sold cars. The conversion rate of showroom visits to sold cars. How many times when someone walked onto the campus of the dealership did they leave with a vehicle? And then finally, employee turnover. What is the overall employee turnover? Now, these 3 KPIs can point me in the direction that we need to go, you and I working together, that's going to help build a more formidable sales effort. It's going to tell me if you are effective or not, right? If your conversion rate on your internet leads is 11%, 12%, you need probably sales training. Process training, sales training. It is positively, unequivocally, unquestionably, unfathomable to me that 88 out of every 100 people who put their name in your CRM were just playing. They weren't serious in buying a car. So we need to be more effective, and typically that would require some kind, if not sales training, business training as it relates to lead nurturing. We'll talk more about that later. But the idea here is that your conversion rate on sales opportunities tells me if you are effective. If you're at 12 or 13%, imagine if we got that to 18% or 19%. What would 5 points of improvement, 5 percentage points improvement in your internet lead conversion rate, showroom visit, what would that do? Everybody in the building would be in a new tax bracket. So the first one we're going to talk about is effectiveness. Do you need effect? But if you're at 16 or 17% internet lead conversion rate, you're pretty good. And then your closing rate on showroom visits is at, let's say, 45 to 50%. I will tell you that an average dealership, and by the way, I'm going to say this, if you didn't know this, if you don't know, and I ask the question, and it's always obvious to me when someone's kind of throwing a number out that it wasn't measured, they're kind of guessing, I think we're about, 21%. They'll throw a number out, right? Write this down. Here we go, the bossy college professor. Write this down. Things that aren't measured can't be improved. Things that aren't measured can't be improved. If you don't know definitively what your conversion rate is on internet leads to showroom visits, you need to start measuring that. If you don't know definitively what the conversion rate is on showroom visits to sold cars, you need to start measuring it. You need to be able to apply resources, apply interventions with surgical precision if you want to resolve any skill or knowledge gaps. If you're not measuring these things, you don't know where you can improve. So I'm not being mean, but things that aren't measured cannot be improved. If you are converting 17% of your internet leads, you have a strong process and a strong sales effort. If you are converting 45% of your showroom visits, you have a strong process and a strong sales effort. If you're converting 35%, which is what an average dealership does, you need probably a little bit of both. But if you're converting 45% of your showroom visits to sold cars, 17% of your internet leads, you don't need any kind of sales training. You need marketing. You need opportunity. The key to selling more cars for your dealership is to improve the number of times your dealership gets chosen, right? It's not about sales training. It's a business intervention to get more people to choose your company. And if you have a 55% turnover of, and it would not be uncommon, if you have a 55 or 60%, 45, 50% turnover sales team, you need leadership and supervisory training. This is a business law of physics. We learned about this in our workforce development class, the Leadership Academy. The business law of physics says people join a company and leave a boss. People join a company and leave a boss. They leave an environment, right? So we want to make sure we resolve any skill or knowledge gap that's repelling employees. I don't want to lose even a person that maybe not as developed as they're going to be next year. I don't want to lose that salesperson to another company. This is a true story. There was a dealer group that I went into training for, a small dealer group. They had 6, 7 stores, and I went to do sales training for them. They didn't want to do the Leadership Academy. I knew they had a high turnover, and my suggestion was, why don't we do the leadership and manager training first and then do the sales training? Because it doesn't make sense to train people in sales and give them this elite sales strategy, these unique and elite sales tools, if they're going to leave because the manager has a skill or knowledge gap. And they didn't do that. So, of course, sales training was obviously successful. I'd like to think it was successful. They felt it was. But they continued to have employee turnover. Not too long after I completed the sales training contract with that dealer group, I was in another competitor dealership in that same area. And here, not 1, not 2, but 3 of the top salesperson in this dealership were former employees from the dealership where they had attended my training, but the dealership decided to and declined to do the manager and leadership training. Okay. People join a company and leave a boss. All right. What is performing coaching? 1, it will divert no more than 30 minutes a day. I'm asking only for 30 minutes a day at the most for one manager. Maybe you call him a success. I've been in stores where we designated somebody a success coach, right? And they are going to accept the responsibility for this program that we're going to talk about here in the next few minutes together. But it's going to require less than 30 minutes a day from one manager. Imagine enjoying peace of mind and security when you lock the door tonight and you leave for the day and the building is empty. You have the peace of mind, the security, knowing that you did everything you could have done to reach a highest and best sales performance. When you open the store in the morning, imagine you unlock the door at 9. By 9:30, everybody on the sales team knows their marching orders, where are we going and how we're going to get there. So it's 30 minutes a day. This process that we're going to talk about requires that every salesperson understands what their goal is on the first of the month. And this has to be a goal, an individual goal that is collaboratively created, right? We'll talk more about that later. The goal has to be collaboratively created with a salesperson. But I'll go into a dealership before I meet with the general manager and I'll say, hey, my name's Dennis. I'm going to do some training today. What's your goal this month? He'll say, I'm going to do 15 cars. And I said, so where'd you get that number? He said, well, I did, 14 last month. I did 15. That's about what I do. And I'll say, did the manager talk to you about that goal? No. Well, that's not a goal. That's not a goal. And it's certainly not part of a structured process that's going to drive the highest and best sales performance. That goal has to be collaboratively created with each salesperson on the first of the month. Now, it is a conversation, frankly, that takes about 2 to 3 minutes at the most. Sales performance coaching allows a manager to identify with surgical precision why a store goal was missed and who on the team failed to meet their individual goal that contributed to the failed store goal. If the owner of my dealership came in and said, Dennis, we missed it. We missed it by a mile. What happened? I should be able to tell him not only why we missed the goal with precision, but what I intended to do about it so we didn't miss it next month. This is the process we're going to talk about. Again, it's about achieving predictable sales results. Sustains a minimum sales performance of 15 cars per salesperson. Stop right there. A good, strong, sound sales performance coaching initiative will sustain a minimum sales performance of 15 cars per salesperson. Now, if you have a salesperson or 2 or 3 on your sales team that do 10 to 12 cars a month, that tells us that that salesperson achieves success on average about once every 3 days. It is conceivable that the person who sold 10 or 11 cars last month sat in the dealership at their desk for an entire day, sometimes 2 full days in a row, without having a customer at their desk. They were not working in the presence of a customer. This is not what we want for our sales team. It does a number of things. One, it's discouraging. If I'm a salesperson and I sit 2 days at my desk and I have not had the opportunity to discuss the purchase of a car with a customer, it's discouraging. I'm on my way out the door, right? I came here to sell cars. It is the manager's responsibility. If they don't have leads, we're going to teach them prospecting. There's things you can do with your database today that I know you're not doing. There's abundant leads. You could double your sales next month if you had a sales team attending to the data, just working the database. And I could tell you how to do that. Not today. It's beyond the scope of our work today. But I can't have a salesperson sitting for a day or two without having a customer at their desk, and then at the end of the month only sell 10 or 12 cars. It's not the salesperson's fault. And it isn't because they're not smart enough. It's not because they don't have a master's degree. It's not because they're a man, they're a woman. It's because they don't know what to do. And I don't want to find out on Friday or Saturday morning at the sales huddle that I had 2 or 3 salespeople who went 2 or 3 days this past week without a customer at their desk. That's industrial strength bad. So we're going to build a management strategy. We're going to dovetail that strategy into our powerful sales training that we offer. That's for another day. But we're going to make certain that we're sustaining a sales performance of 15 cars per salesperson per month. Now, we'll talk more about that when we get to goal setting in a few minutes. Sales coaching provides activity and performance data in real time. Interventions are implemented before a crisis and while a sales opportunity can be salvaged. Listen, we're not going to close every deal, right? The best salesperson in your building would, if they're being honest, say, I don't close everyone. Somebody's going to get away. But that's still a viable lead. We want to make certain that while opportunity is still on the table in front of us, that we have a management process that says we're going to capture, we're going to earn, we're going to compete for as many of those opportunities as we possibly can. If I don't have a performance management system that's going to identify those opportunities, then we're just simply conceding them to our competitors. A good sales performance coach ensures that every sales consultant is aware of our sales standards and they understand and they are accountable to them. Listen, let's be clear. We are adults. If you're building an elite sales team, these are adults. We have to treat them like adults. Rules are for children. We don't have rules in a professional environment. We have standards, and standards are company policies that create a path to your highest and best and most successful sales performance. We have standards of appearance. We have standards of lead nurturing. We have standards of customer service. Standards, not rules. And it is important and it's vital that everybody on the sales team understands, appreciates, and are held accountable to our sales standards, not our rules, our sales standards. And finally, sales coaching identifies skill or knowledge gaps, especially for those that are trending towards an unsuccessful month. I need to know by the 10th, by the 7th, whether or not Bob over here is going to make his goal. Because if he doesn't make his goal, it diminishes the chance that the store is going to hit the sales targets that we previously established. So we're going to talk now about accountability. All right. We're going to talk about accountability. Accountability generally can, and in many times is considered punitive, and it's not. It could be a negative. It could be something that kind of repels or discourages people. It isn't. People reach the conclusions about you that you lead them to. Write it down. It's from our sales class. It's also a leadership principle. People will reach the conclusions about you as a leader that you lead them to. Are you smart, eager, enthusiastic, passionate, well-trained, knowledgeable, skilled, interested, concerned, empathetic, powerful? Whatever conclusion your sales staff reaches about you, you've led them to those conclusions. And one of the conclusions that I want my sales team to understand is that I care enough about you to hold you accountable. Not being mean, it's my job to help work with you, to collaborate with you, to drain every drop of productivity that you have in you for every hour that you're on the clock. So we're going to talk a little bit about accountability. We've all seen this in a dealership, the whiteboard, right? The whiteboard. This is not a sales manager. This is not a salesman. Although he would tell you I'm a sales manager, he's not a sales manager. He's a historian. What he does is after each time a salesperson sells a car, he walks over to the whiteboard and he puts a check mark on the board, told us the numbers after the car leaves the dealership. Now, that's not managing. A good sales leader is somebody who establishes up front what constitutes success, gives his team their coaching, training, advice, guidance, blueprint, the best way to achieve them. And then they walk away knowing that that team knows exactly where they're going and how to get there. Now, along the way, we use good processes, good management systems to determine when people are going off the track or when things go sideways so that we can pull it back on track to be successful. But let's not get it twisted. This isn't a sales manager. This is a historian that works at a car dealership. All right, so let's get to it. We're going to talk about something called a work in progress meeting. Work in progress. A WIP meeting, work in progress meeting, is a time-honored strategy for shaping a sales performance. Now, the rest of the business world knows what a work in progress meeting is. Now, caution, don't even think about it. Don't even think about closing it. We're almost done. Don't even think about closing the video. We are getting down into the nuts and bolts of this thing now. Stay with me. Now, I'm going to caution you. A WIP meeting is not a coaching session. It's not a rah-rah session. It's not a sales training meeting. It's not a huddle. A WIP meeting is a business intelligence meeting. Please, let me be abundantly clear. The work in progress meeting requires that the sales manager who's facilitating the meeting is in receive mode, not transmit. You are in receive mode, right? Make sure that is the linchpin to the whole meeting. I'm not there to tell you, to communicate, to transmit. I'm there to listen. I need to know what's going on the sales floor. And once a day, I'm going to have a WIP meeting. The WIP meeting can give me the business intelligence I need to make good decisions. This WIP meeting should take 60 to 90 seconds for each of the salespeople at the most, and 10 to 15 minutes max for the entire meeting. Once again, imagine you unlock the door at 9. By 9:30, everybody in the building knows precisely where we're going and how we intend to get there. That's a WIP meeting, right? 60 to 90 seconds for each salesperson. Express disappointment and not anger. If you are in a WIP meeting and you know that Bob over here is slacking and we don't know why, he's got some personal problems, we don't know, we don't care, right? A WIP meeting is about data. We are capturing data from the sales team. It's objective, it's dispassionate, right? It's unbiased. It is what it is. And we're going to ask them for their sale. Each salesperson is going to communicate publicly. They're going to make a declaration of what they're going to do, what they did, where they're going, and if they're on track to be successful for the month. Now, very few adults want to, day after day, make a public declaration that they're slacking. So instantly and up front, the WIP meeting causes behavior shaping as people in the presence of their peers, in the presence of the manager, make a public declaration of what they're doing that day and that month. When you hear things that are concerning, I would advise you, as a coaching strategy, express disappointment, not anger. Shame is a much more powerful behavior shaping tool than anger. Shame, right? Don't tell them they're wrong. Imply that it's shameful, and you'll get the behavior you're looking for. Compare commitments to action, right? They're going to tell you what they're going to do for the month. They're going to tell you what they're going to do for the day. They're going to tell you what they did yesterday in the WIP meeting in 60 seconds, and I'll show you how we're going to get there. And we are, again, in this public meeting comparing commitments to action. We want to cut off escape routes. Listen, if you give somebody 5 things to do today, if you give someone 5 things to do today, we know that they're going to gravitate to the things on the list that they're good at or the things they like to do. So we learned this in delegation training. If I give Bob over here 5 things to do, he's going to gravitate to things he's good at, things he likes to do, and there'll be things on that list maybe he won't get to today because he's not good at it or he doesn't like it. The problem is that number 4, number 5, the things that I needed done, he didn't get to because I didn't prioritize them for him. I was not clear in delegating that work to that salesperson. But I want to talk for a moment about escape routes. This is a true story. I was in Southwest Virginia, a big store. They had over 20 salespeople on the staff. I walked in. I got there right about 5 minutes to 9. They were going to do the morning meeting about 9 o'clock. And so the manager came to the tower. So I stood in the back and I was watching as the manager did his morning meeting. I couldn't help know there were cars pulling in, people straggling from the parking lot, various levels of dress, still putting their shirts on, tucking in their shirt. Some people drinking coffee. And again, you're talking about almost 20, 22 people in the room around the tower. There were 2 or 3 private conversations in the back of the meeting, people with their hands in their pocket. And the manager was in transmit mode. Let's get going. We're going to have a great today. And he pulls a $100 bill out of his pocket. He says, for the first person who brings me a sale, I'm going to give you this $100 bill. Let's go get him. And then I couldn't help but to observe that they didn't start selling cars until 10:30. They dispersed. Some went over, got more coffee. This one was still getting dressed. Did you see that game last night? What do you think the Celtics are going to do? So all of that nonsense was going on. And they didn't get to selling cars until 10:30. That's not a whip meeting. And I want to talk specifically about cutting off the escape routes, right? That was a poorly executed management for a couple of reasons. One, please don't ever come to my meeting. If I'm a manager and I call a meeting, even if I do it every day, please don't show up to my meeting getting dressed. I want you dressed and ready to go at the meeting. Secondly, I want you to come with paper and pencil. Here's a news flash. I might say something useful, valuable, or interesting, and I want you to take it with you. It is a professional environment, a professional sales team that shows up for a meeting with paper and pencil to take notes. I might say, write this down. And if I do that, I want them to be able to do that. But to show up for a professional meeting in a business environment with your hands in your pocket, drinking coffee, or being distracted with a conversation or two is not acceptable in a sales-driven culture. Additionally, if you break from that meeting and you don't go right to your desk and start to attend to the tasks that have been ascribed to you, then you don't have a sales-driven culture. And we know what they'll do. They'll have coffee and wander around, get social, and they'll make that first phone call or send an email somewhere around 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the morning. That's not a sales-driven culture. Here's another story related to escape routes. It's very, very important. And I know I'm going a little bit long, but I think it has value. I was at a dealership doing training just a short few weeks ago, and there was a young man just joined. He'd been at the dealership about 3 months. He had every personal characteristic I believe that you would want to hire on your sales team. He was intelligent, clean cut, well-dressed, positive, and just a really sharp young man. And I couldn't help but to notice that at 10 o'clock in the morning, he greeted somebody, had a customer, and around 1:30 in the afternoon, I walked by his desk and I overheard the woman say, well, we want to think it over, but we appreciate your time. And he stood up, very professional, said, well, thank you very much for coming in. I'll be here. Let me know if I can answer any questions. The customer left. Now, we learned this in leadership school. I'm not in the business of catching somebody doing something wrong. So I waited about an hour and I went back and I called him Mark. Hey, Mark, I saw you with that customer this morning. They seemed to be really excited about that car. Were they? He said, yeah, they really were. And I said, and they seemed to really love the car. And he said, they loved it. I said, they seemed to love you. Did they love you? He said, they loved me. And I said, they really loved the dealership, didn't they? He said, yeah. And I said, there was a lot of love in the air. Wasn't there, Mark? He said, yeah. I said, but I couldn't help but to notice you didn't urge them to make a buy decision. Why is that? And for managers who have been in the business a minute, you know what he said before I even tell you. He said, Dennis, I like to give my customers information. I don't like to push them. And so my conversation with Mark sounded like this. I said, well, Mark, if you were a customer service rep, I'd have to tell you did exceptional work this morning. You were 5 diamond, 5-star, whatever you want to say. You were an exceptional customer service rep. Sadly, that's not the job we hired you to do. That person came here because they wanted to leave with the car. You know how many car dealerships, the average car buying customer by research visits before they leave with the car? One. NADA, State of the Industry Report, 2022. 1.4 actually is the number. So I said, Mark, here's the deal. They wanted to leave with the car. So when they came here, they brought that desire to buy a car, but they also brought fear of commitment, doubt, and indecision. It was your job to help nudge them over and beyond that. Now, I have a feeling the reason you didn't urge them to buy the vehicle is because you were worried they're going to get mad at you, right? And he said, exactly. We were having a good time. I didn't want to upset them. And so my suggestion to Mark was this. Mark, here's the thing. There was no evidence that they were going to get mad at you. You told me they loved you, they loved the car, they loved the dealership. There was no evidence they were going to get mad. When the customer said we want to think it over, your purpose, your sense of purpose at that moment was to be comfortable. It was not to help the customer leave with the vehicle. You wanted to be comfortable, and your desire to be comfortable was stronger than your desire to help that person buy the car. So I'm going to give you Dennis's golden rule, one of Dennis's golden rules, and that is comfort is overrated. Comfort is overrated. And I shared with Mark that if he doesn't learn, and in our sales training, this is not the class for that, but we teach salespeople how to, in a frictionless way, turn the corner when you get to that moment in the sales cycle where you're at the back end, you've honored the buying criteria, buying motive. The customer told you there was an equal sign between their buying criteria and motive and the vehicle. Did all your, when you get to the back end, we teach people how to close the sale. When the salesperson desires to be comfortable, they'll let that customer leave without urging them to buy it because they want to be comfortable. Comfort is overrated. So I advise Mark, he's likely to have skinny children if he keeps on that way. This is a whip report. Now, I'm going to tell you the way I do it, okay? Now, you don't have to do it this way, but I'm going to tell you how I do it. Every morning, we open the whip book. There's an icon on the desktop. By the way, the icon is on every desk in the dealership. Every salesperson has access to the whip book. And the whip book is an Excel workbook. There are 31 pages in the whip book, one for every day. Okay. On the first of the month, I'm going to put all my, the first page is unlocked. I can put all my salespeople. If I've lost somebody, if I hired somebody, if somebody quit, any turnover issues, I'll populate this first row up here with my sales team, and it populates all 31 sheets with the names of the salespeople. Okay. In the middle of this whip book, I've got all of the high impact activities that I need my salespeople to do every day, right? How many phone calls, how many emails, how many text messages did you send yesterday? How many appointments did you have scheduled for today? How many appointments did you have yesterday? Did you have any no-shows? All of this core data that relates to sales success. I need my salesperson, let me be clear, I need my salesperson running to get into the desk. So if they show up, if my meeting starts at 9 and they get there 5 of, they better be running to their desk so they can get their data together for the WIP meeting, because they are going to report, they are going to provide a summary of their sales activity in 60 seconds in the WIP meeting. And I need them to be prepared. If somebody shows up at 5 after 9, I'm going to say, go ahead, just go have a seat. I'll talk to you after the meeting. That's how important meeting is. You can't be late for it. I'm going to go bam, bam, bam through the WIP report, salesperson by salesperson, and you are going to offer me a summary of your work so far. So, Matt, what was your goal for the month? Oh, let me go up here. So there's your sales activities. And on the first of the month, let's talk about goals. On the first of the month, I'm going to have that 2 to 3. There's 2 ways to do this. I'm going on the very first of the month, I'm going to have a 2 or 3 minute conversation at the most with each salesperson. I'm going to say, Deshaun, what's your goal for the month? Deshaun's going to say, I'm going to do 15 cars this month. I'm going to say, Deshaun, you did 11 cars last month. I think 15 wouldn't be a goal. That would be more like a wish. I don't think you're going to increase your sales 33% this month. Can we agree on that? Because it's my job to explain to Deshaun that when you and I agree on a goal, it is immovable. You're married to the goal, right? I'm not playing. When you and I agree that you can sell X cars, I expect you to sell. I want to walk away from that meeting comfortable that you know exactly what you're going to do and that you have the capacity, the skill, and the ability to meet that sales target. And then I'm going to go to the next salesperson and ask them. So I'm going to say, Deshaun, what's your goal for the month? He might say it's 15. I'm going to say, Deshaun, you ain't going to increase your sales 33%. And he's going to say, well, how about 11? I said, Deshaun, that's what you did last month. That's a to-do list. That's not a goal. Let's see if we can't get you to 12, 2 or 3 months in a row and climb upwards from there. So I'm going to have that conversation, and I'm going to populate this row with the number from on day 1 for each of the sales targets. Now, you notice at the top, it's going to give me a number. It totals it up. This store the goal for the store is 105 cars. Now, I want to talk a little about goal setting real quick. Again, it's a business law of physics. Anything imposed is opposed. It's the psychology of adult behavior. The car has to be the customer's idea, right? I can't tell the customer they should buy this. The car has to be the customer's idea. We have to make them think that they chose the car. Anything imposed is opposed. So if I walked up to Deshaun and I said, hey, Deshaun, I think you're going to do 12 cars this month. Deshaun's going to say, okay, all right. But he's not bought into it. And there's something called thought transference. In coaching, we learn about this. So if I said to Deshaun, you're not going to do 15, that's kind of a wish. We're not going to do 11, that's a to-do list. What do you think about 12 cars? That's one more than you did last month. Can you do that for me? Deshaun said yes. And I'm going to say, because I'm a trained coach, Deshaun, sometimes I don't speak as clearly as I should. So I need you to tell me what we've agreed upon this morning. I'm going to sell 11 cars this month. Great. Awesome. Let's go get them. If it doesn't come out of Deshaun's mouth, it didn't happen. It's called and I can't hold him accountable to something that he hasn't verbalized. It's called thought transference. Anything imposed is opposed. So I'm not going to tell him. He's going to tell me what he is agreeing to sell this month. He'll be more bought in. And the reason he'll be more bought in is that people tend to support what they think they help to create. Leadership 101. People will support what they think they help to create. Okay? So for example, if I came out in the next sales meeting and said, listen, we're thinking about changing something about the dealership and I wanted to get your feedback on it. Now I might not use your idea, but I wanted to at least hear what you had to say about this. People are more likely to support whatever decision is made when they feel they're part of the process, when they feel included. People will support what they think they help to create. If I have a conversation with Deshaun about what he might sell this month, there's an improved chance Deshaun will feel more bought in, frankly, more of a responsibility to achieve that goal. And then finally, no special days. No special days. There's going to be a manager, right? There's going to be a manager. There's going to be a manager in your store who's going to say, Dennis, I sell 18 cars, 20 cars a month. I don't need this whip crap. And I'm going to say, you're right, you don't. But the whip meeting is not for you. It's for the people who want to be you. And it's for the people who don't know how to be you. It's for the people that I want to be you. So I need your help. If you support the whip meeting, if I can get you to participate in the morning, you would be helping me coach a better performance from these lesser skilled, lesser performing salespeople. Now, sometimes I don't communicate as clearly as I should. So do me a favor. Tell me why it is I've asked you to participate in the whip meeting. Can I count on your support? People will support what they think they help to create. But at the end of the day, I can't have resentment from the people who aren't doing as well because somebody else is insulated or immune from the whip meeting. No special days. Everybody participates. But ask that those senior salespeople, the high achievers, ask them to help you. I need your help. And I guarantee you they will be glad to help you out. So on the first day of the month, we got our goal, and that, by the way, populates across all 31 days of the month. Now, one more thing I have heard, and you've heard it too. There's this really ridiculous principle. I'm going to call it a principle, and that's giving it a little bit more credibility than I wanted to. You've heard people say, if I need to sell 100 cars, I have to have 10 salespeople in my dealership. I'll say it again. Have you ever heard a sales manager or GM say, we want to sell 100 cars a month, and to do that, I need 10 salespeople? Well, there's not a college or university business development class in the country where you would hear that as a management strategy for two reasons. It disrespects the investment that you make in people. You have people there that are selling 10 cars a month, but for proper coaching and leadership, they could be doing 15 or 16. You have an investment that you're making in marketing now, creating sales leads and opportunity. It disrespects that investment you make by saying, I'm not going to convert more of those to sold cars. Rather, I'll hire more hobo salespeople and just take a modest 10 cars out of them every month. Okay. So, there's two ways to go about goal setting. I think the one you want to do is to, help coach and, train each of your sales team to their to their highest and best result. You'll get that number up there at the top. Now, let's talk for a minute about what goes on down here. So, what's a whip meeting sound like? I'm going to say, all right, John, what's your goal for the month? John says 18. How many of you sold to date? 0. Of course, it's only on the first of the month. John, do you have any appointments today? He said, yep. What's the name? What's the phone number? Why do you want it? Well, because I'm going to help you. I'm going to follow up. I'm going to contact that person, help get them in. What's the name? What's the number? How many phone calls did you make yesterday? How many text messages did you send? How many emails did you send? So if somebody on your sales team says, I didn't have any showroom visits yesterday and I didn't sell any cars, and I sent 12 emails, I made 10 phone calls, and I sent 8 text messages, it would be a fair question for you to say, what happened? And they're going to look at you funny, and you can say, well, you were here for 8 hours. That's about an hour's worth of work. What happened? And they'll give you some flimsy response. But tomorrow, they're not going to want to be embarrassed when they make that public declaration of what it is they did yesterday, especially if they didn't have any showroom visits to occupy them today. Does that make sense? So this whole public declaration thing is important. And what do you think they're going to do today? Because they don't want to suffer that humiliation. They're going to go make phone calls. And over time, you're cutting off those avenues of escape, and you're shaping that performance so that that salesperson understands that we're not playing when you're on the clock at your desk. I need you emailing, texting, contacting sales leads. You would ask somebody, did you have a no-show yesterday? Yep. What was the name? What was the phone number? And you're going to put it in the bottom of the whip report. Do you have anybody that's hard to reach? What was the name? What's the phone number? Bring it here. I'll work with you on it. Remember, if they screw up, it's their fault, but it's my responsibility. One of the things that's important about the whip meeting is they are identifying opportunity. By 9:15, you'll notice we are positioned to sell. In that upper hand corner there, by 9:15, we'll know what the dealership is positioned to sell. The boss comes in and said, Dennis, what are we going to do today? I said, well, I know we're positioned to sell 5. If there's 25 or 30 days in the month, you're going to sell 5 a day. That's 150 cars. That's not a bad month for, a lot of average sized dealerships, right? 150 cars. What are you positioned to sell? It provides some target for us to reach. Now, there'll be some walk-ins that were unplanned. There'll be some other activities. But by 9:15, we'll know, based on these public declarations from the sales team, what we're positioned to sell. Now, finally, this is the final part. I'm almost done. Everyone knows that when you follow up with the leads, when the manager follows up with the appointments, right, when they follow up with the no-shows, that improves the show rate. It improves the engagement. Every manager that watches this video understands that when you follow up with these appointments, when you follow up with the no-shows, it increases the show rate and it increases the be-back rate on these leads. Now, the problem is we don't do it. And let's be abundantly clear. The problem with a manager at the tower is you're busy, right? And you'll do it for a day or two, and then you don't do it, and then it doesn't get done. And then 2 weeks after we launch this whip meeting, we're not following up the leads, and we're back to that hemorrhaging. We're conceding opportunity to our competitors. So here's what I want you to do. By the way, we learned in our sales class that 90% of phone calls go to voicemail, and only 40% of your dealership emails are opened. Only 40% of your dealership emails are open. We don't know if they're read, but we know statistically about 40% of your emails are even open. So we're not engaging customers to a great extent. Now, salespeople will run back and try to tell you that I told them not to use email or phones, and that would be not wrong. In my sales training, we talk about recalibrating how to use those tools. So I don't want you to use an email, and I don't want you to make a phone call. I want you to use a text message. I want you to go in the CRM, click, and text the customer. And the reason I want you to use a text message is because we know that 93% of text messages are read within 3 minutes. It is the most formidable way to engage a customer today. 93% of text messages are opened within 3 minutes. Now, I'm telling you that the ones that the salespeople text on their phones or they type into the CRM are valueless. And that's why you have to take the sales class to understand how we use text properly. But this would be an example of a proper use of a text message. A business principle, a business law of physics is that people do business with people. So if I'm a sales manager, I want it branded with my picture, my contact information, my dealer logo, and a quick message. You see that it's graphic rich and with colors. I'm so excited to meet you. I'm a sales manager, and I understand we'll be visiting with us later today. I want you to know that we're excited to meet you. We have an excellent team here. Look forward to seeing you later today. We know that there is nearly a 100% chance that they're going to see this message, unlike the voicemail or the email. So, for my dealerships, I create these branded text messages and I show you how to use them. There's a whole class that comes along with it. There's an example of a quick 10-second, look the customer up, click, click, text it, and on to the next follow-up. You are more likely to do this follow-up that we talk about over here in the key activities. You're more likely to do it if you can get it done quickly and easily. If you have somebody that missed an appointment or someone that was hard to reach for information only, we view a visit to our dealership as an opportunity to get information, not an opportunity to feel pressure. Look forward to seeing you. Look forward to meeting you. For information only, you can flash the dealership logo, flash the salesperson's picture in front of the prospect. Now, there are no dealerships in the country using these unless they were my client. And I'm telling you, the results are nearly instant. And I wouldn't be exaggerating if I told you that the sales training that I teach brings same-day results. Because when I have a battery of 18 different messages, depending on the deal, it could be 24, but roughly 18 different messages that I give to the salespeople. And what happens after they finish sales training? They go back and they start texting everybody in the world because they're proud of the way it looks. They look professional with their picture, their dealership logo. And because they go back and they start texting the hell out of customers, what do you think happens? The phone rings and they start selling more cars. But from a manager's perspective, this is a way for you to follow up with leads and engage the customer. Sorry we missed you. Someone that missed their appointment. I hope we didn't blow it. So this is a way to reach out to the customer and not put pressure. Remember, why do people miss their appointments? They're worried about feeling pressured to buy a car. Sorry, missed you. I hope we didn't blow it. We take responsibility for that customer not showing. Take some of the pressure off of them, right? So when Marty says I had a no-show yesterday, I look the customer up in the CRM, I click, and I send them that text message. We've been trying to reach you. Didn't want you to feel ignored or think that we weren't interested in being of service. We are. Look forward to being of service to you. Again, the branded text message, nearly 100% chance that the customer is going to see it versus the follow-up you use with your telephone and email, which probably won't get through. Another manager's text message. Are you staying awake at night thinking about how you can get the perfect car at the best price? I am too. Call me. We'll both sleep better. Remember, the issue here is I'm not trying to sell a car, and I'm going to refer to something that we learned in our sales training. At this stage of the sales cycle, I shouldn't be trying to sell them a car. I'm selling the wrong thing. I will not have the opportunity to sell that prospect a car if I can't close the appointment. I'm selling an appointment, not a car. And I want to say something clever, tongue-in-cheek. I want to say something other than, do you want to come in for a test drive? The reason I don't want to say that is that's the same message they got from everybody else in town. Real quick, whip meeting must be conducted every day to be effective. The day that you don't do a whip meeting is the day your sales team decides it must not be that important, and they become less into it and less prepared the following day. The whip meeting must be conducted at the same time every single day. My whip meeting starts at 9:05. Don't be late. If I have split shifts, it's 9:05 and 1:05. Don't be late. And come prepared. Paper, pencil, and data. I want you to come prepared to report on your sales activity. We are evolving the responsibility. We are evolving the responsibility for sales success away from the tower, and we're placing it slowly and incrementally. We're evolving it onto the shoulders of the people who actually sell the cars. The donuts are made, cars are sold on the sales floor. I need them to own the responsibility for their success. Now, I'll coach you, and I'll help you define what it looks like, and I'll give you the tools and the strategy and the information you need, but it has to be your responsibility, and you have to take charge of it, right? But it has to happen every day at the same time. I want them running from their car, literally running, if they're late for work, to get in and be prepared for the whip meeting. For those that are unprepared, ask to see them after the meeting. You only have to do it once or twice, and you will reshape that lethargic behavior. And then insist, because that icon, and everybody can access the whip book. They can only print. They can't change the data. Have them print the previous day's report and bring it with them to the whip meeting. It helps hold them accountable. Be sure when someone underreports an effort, ask them what happened and let them explain it. Just by saying what happened, they'll know that they didn't do what they were supposed to. For those that exceeded your expectations, congratulate them. Okay? Make sure everybody knows what they're going to do over the next 24 hours. And finally, in our coaching strategy, be mindful that we praise in public. We praise in public and we reprimand in private. Any questions? Of course, if this was a live seminar, we'd take a few minutes and would answer those questions. I hope it was useful. I know I dumped a truckload of information. I went longer than 45 minutes, a little bit. I hope it was valuable. But I'm telling you, if you experimented this for 30 days, at the end of 30 days, it's not a revolution. It's an evolution. You will evolve this sales team into thinking at a higher level, in acting at a higher level, being more responsible, being more accountable to their best performance. I appreciate you taking a moment to visit with me in this class. And if you have any questions, you can reach me at Dennis at Car Business University. I appreciate your time. I hope it was useful. Stay well.